Hello, this is R.A. Cook again, and we're on Module 3 of Talk Story. He said, she said, they said, it's dialogue time, story structure, and pacing. Not every story is a cliffhanger, but you know what? Your words can still move the reader. Let's talk about point of view, or POV, first. Here's the thing. Thoughts are things. Words have meanings. You are your words. So it's best to decide who's talking in your story right away. Is your narrative approach in first person? Are you narrating from a distance? Are you narrating from the past, the present, or the future? Are you inside the action or standing outside, looking in? These are important things to really consider when you're writing your story. I've written stories from different points of view and then changed the POV and found the story worked better, flowed easier. I recommend that you try to experiment. Try different points of view. Then pick a favorite short story author and mimic his or her writing style if you get confused. See how it feels. Is it comfortable? Natural? I love Kurt Vonnegut's writing, but his style doesn't fit me. My words don't fall down like that. My muse offers a different mode. Check in and see what works for you. Trust your muse. Okay, let's move on to dialogue. He said, she said, they said, what? Dialogue can move the story plot, and it can also move the reader. You see an old man standing in front of you. He looks lost. He reminds you of something in your childhood, something your grandmother said. So you stop and you ask, do you need help, sir? The old man smiles, wipes a tear from his eye. Just a little cold, he says, and stares into space. His voice trembles. I miss my wife. She died yesterday. And on goes the story. In just a few sentences, you have established atmosphere and moved the story forward. You've also moved the reader. They want to know what's happening next. But the most important thing to remember about dialogue as you experiment with it is it needs to sound natural. Here's an excerpt from the story I wrote called The Tansy Puller. At that moment, the woman looked up and waved, beckoning me to come. I don't know why, but I ran helter-skelter down the embankment like the young girl I once was. I felt a big grin forming on my lips as I galloped toward the woman. How the hell, I thought? Just how the hell? You've come, she said. I hoped you would. Here, help me with this, will you? She leaned down and pulled some more tansy. Sure, I said, as naturally as I could. How did you get here? I mean, where did you come from? How the hell? Oh, that, she said. I'm in Bardo now, trying to figure things out. Bardo. Yes, you know, Bardo, like the Buddhist Bardo. Oh. I stood watching her methodically pull tansy while trying to figure out how I could see my sister if she was dead and in the Bardo. I wasn't acquainted with Buddhist teachings then, but clearly she was. Trying to take it all in, I said, Tell me about it. Okay, let's go on to narrowing your story to a few scenes. Now, a short story can run from 100 words to 1,000. 1,000 is pretty much tops for a flash fiction story. You can move on to 5,000 words or more if that's where your story is taking you. When I write a first draft of anything, a blog, a short story, a novel, children's story, whatever, I've learned to let the story run as long as it wants. If I try to control word count or page count, I lose the inevitable surprise that happens when a story runs free. If your story goes longer than a few scenes, keep going. Write until you can't write any longer. Trim your story later and keep those cuts. You might use them for one or more future stories. As Kurt Vonnegut said, have the guts to cut. Your rule might be this: if a sentence, no matter how excellent, does not illuminate your subject in some new and useful way, scratch it out. Let's move on to the story structure. You can complicate this, but basically every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's all. Let me break it down further for you. In the beginning, in the rising action, a character is in a situation with a problem. There's a conflict. In the middle, the situation worsens. The character repeatedly fails, and the situation seems hopeless. In the falling action, or the denouement, the protagonist makes a final effort and wins. There is a resolution, an untying of the knot. One of my favorite short story writers was Isak Dinesen. You probably know her as Karen Blixen, author of Out of Africa. She had a way of twisting her stories just a few degrees. The reader came away surprised, startled even. Dinesen was a masterful storyteller. She wrote many books and won a number of awards. I highly recommend that you pick up a few of her stories and read them carefully. Learn how she moves the reader and what kind of effect the ending has on you. I think you'll enjoy it. All right, let's talk about pacing. What's it going to be, fast or slow? Pacing affects the story's mood, so you want to study your genre. Control your story's pace through sentence length. If you write a thriller piece, the pace is action, action, and you use short, choppy sentences. If you have an introspective piece, use a monologue or stream of consciousness to slow your story down. With a whodunit, give your reader clues as you spool out the mystery bit by bit. Read a few Agatha Christie stories for inspiration. A romance reader savors saucy moments, betrayals, and jealous lovers, and Joyce Carol Oates excels at this type of prose. Horror is in a realm of its own, and Stephen King is a master. His stories will chill you to the bone. Above all, strong, clear dialogue helps pace your work. Good pacing does not mean fast pace. So, in summary, be clear on your point of view, your POV. Remember that dialogue moves the plot and also moves the reader. Let the first draft run free, and then you can cut to a few scenes. Your story structure is always beginning, middle, and end. And your genre will affect your story's pace and your story's mood. Here's your challenge for this module. Take 10 minutes and write a paragraph or two about your last birthday. What happened on that day? Did you have a party? Did you spend it alone in the forest? What did you do? What did you think about? When you're finished, share with a friend or drop it on the Talk Story Facebook group and chat it up. And I'll see you there. Okay, that's it for module number 3. What's next? Module number 4 is diving in. I'll see you there.